All right. Well, shall we kick it off?
Absolutely, absolutely.
We're going to be talking about the Relic TCG Fest with 255 players, which is the biggest Duel Commander tournament to date.
Absolutely, yes.
That we have. We didn't personally go. Some Prague people went that we know, and yeah, it was quite a surprising metagame breakdown. And apart from two decks that were very high up there, still a very diverse metagame apart from those two decks. So yeah,
Definitely. I think what's interesting to talk about or to have a look at in the top 8 are the two combo decks, probably. We can talk a bit about Underworld Breach, and I mean, it's it's not new to the format. There was something very similar back in the days with Lion's Eye Diamond being legal, and it was played with Kenriv as a 5-color deck. And now we swapped Lion's Eye Diamond for Lotus Petal and added Lurus in the command zone and have some value lines with baubles and dress down and whatsoever, which is a cool line every now and
definitely
then.
worse since the rule change, the companion rule change.
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure. And
Which is
also,
to the
the whole combo line is much worse with Lotus Petal compared to Lion's Eye Diamond.
absolutely. I played the Lion's Eye Diamond combo in Cube yesterday, and it's a lot better.
Yeah,
Definitely a lot better.
that's right. But still, the deck, or let's say the combo, we've seen the combo quite often when Gifts Ungiven was unbanned for some time, because whenever you could include, or you had at least Jeskai colors, you had these intuition piles with Sevines and Underworld Breach and Lotus Petal, or whatever you needed in this situation. Gifts Ungiven was basically one card combo, given the fact that you could search all things together, and no matter what your opponent would give you, you have the combo. Of course, you also need to make sure that you have enough mana and the cards in graveyard the appropriate amount in order to cast your cards from graveyard, but usually with all 4 pieces available, that shouldn't be a big deal. And also, we've been to the last Prague event in April, I guess it was. Marcus and me. Samuel was not joining, but there was also one player with Zilas and Rograk making top 8, also with a Breach combo and some other combo lines, but Breach was the standard combo line, I guess. So yeah, it's been around for a while, and there are different combinations, and now people have decided to pick these partners for colors and also to add Luros and have another combination in order to play the Storm deck.
Yeah, I think one major component as well is Wernog or Will, the Friends Forever commander, the Orzhov one. It has the potential to, especially in these kinds of decks which want to stall the game as long as possible in order to draw as many cards as they can before trying to go off. This commander lets you stall a whole lot and spend your mana cracking those clues, drawing those cards, and being better prepared for your combo turn, and like with hand disruption and counter magic to support going off, which is very risky in this deck because once you cast Underworld Breach, you have very little ways of getting it out of the graveyard. You have it in Lurus, but Lurus is a disruptible creature and also costs a total of 6 mana to put on the board, plus 2 mana to recast the Underworld Breach. So you don't actually have a lot of attempts to try and go off, and when you do, you have to be pretty sure that you're going to be able to win that turn. So having a stally card in the command zone lets you get there a bit more consistently.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm thinking about it. I've seen a debate about that on a French Discord server. What's the problem here, or is there even a problem? I would say there isn't a problem. Yeah, sure. This has been a major event with a lot of players. Probably these players were grinders anyway. Like they could have picked up other decks as well with a similar result. I personally tend to go for combo decks as well when I attend in big events, since sometimes you can just end games quickly and have something to eat, and it's a bit more relaxed compared to playing Shorikai Hard Control, for example, or other decks. The thing is, like, is the command zone a problem? Like, there wasn't anything comparable known before this event, right? No one has up to that point experimented with, or probably the players did so, but obviously not known to the community to have an advantage at this event, probably. But what I'm going or trying to go for is there a problem with Underworld Breach? Is there a problem with this 4-color command zone? Is there a problem at all that we should talk about, or is everything fine? And
I don't think so at all, because for a couple of reasons. For one, the list they're playing, I say they because there's 2 in the top 8, and they're playing identical lists except for 1 card, and the mana base is a little bit different. These decks have 2 ways of winning the game. Creature beats and anything like that isn't viable in these lists. So the 2 ways are either Underworld Breach combo or Painter Grindstone.
Yep.
And Painter Grindstone is an okay combo, but not very good. It gets disrupted by creature removal, by a Pithing Needle, which is very popular at the moment because of the popularity of Urza Saga. Painter Grindstone combo has never been very good, only in decks that can produce a lot of mana very quickly. Can you kind of catch your opponent out with it? But I think otherwise it's very unlikely that you're going to be winning a lot of games with it because it's so easy to disrupt. Just kill the painter, or you stop them from activating the grindstone. And the other line is the Underworld Breach line, which can go off quite a bit more easily, but you need a lot of mana. So any deck that interacts with lands, maybe decks that have Dust Bowl, or in any way kind of take down the opponent's mana or stop them from drawing cards. Any control decks have many ways of stopping them from going off. You also have incidental graveyard hate on a lot of cards nowadays. Green decks can get endurance, and you don't even need to use your graveyard hate in the turn that they're going off, simply because they need, depending on how much mana they have, they still need a lot of mana to go off in a turn, usually, or a lot of cards in graveyard. And if you at some point take 6 or 10 cards from their graveyard and exile them or put them back in their deck, then that's a lot of setup that they have to commit to again. And it's going to take them usually at least 2 to 3 turns to get back to having enough cards in graveyard to go off, in which you have all the time in the world to interact more or to kill them. So
yeah, especially because these lists don't play any self-mill, like compared to the Kenrith version, which was playing Mental Note and Thought Score and stuff like this. And we don't see that here, so everything derives from naturally casting spells and fetching and whatsoever, and turn by turn slowly fueling your graveyard in order to go off at some point. So it's even more of a commitment.
And you get stopped by cards like Cling to Dust or Kaya's Guile. There's so many pieces of incidental hate nowadays that just are going to stop these decks from going very far. It's just a matter of knowing to play around them, and I think if they become a staple presence in the format, which they certainly could, because they're not bad decks, but they just have a lot of avenues that you can interact with them on, which means to me that they're a non-problematic combo deck.
Yep, I agree to that. Something which I found quite interesting is that there was one Kyodai list, a hard control list, I would say, that made it to the top 8 as well. Quite an interesting build, not a lot of creatures, some value here and there, but apart from that, it's, yeah, a 5-color control shell with a few charms, which is quite surprising, because at least I, for myself, I mean, the best one is obviously Archmage's Charm, but I'm talking about Broker's Charm and Esper Charm, and I would personally not rate these cards that or good enough to include them in a 5-color deck. But if you take a look across the list, it's basically a 4-color pile with a few green splashes here and there, the best ones, and apart from that, it's like pretty much Breya colors. It's cool to see this one amongst the very Shorikai dominated top 8 or overall dominated tournament. I think there were like 30 Grists and 24 Shorikais, and followed by a few Karizevs, Sniff Mizzet, and whatsoever, and then the rest is a normal representation regarding the fact that there were 255 players. But let's have a look at the top 16. Two decks that strike me are Azusa and Lonis. We just had a recording last weekend, and Samuel was playing Azusa because we wanted to show this commander again since it came up. And I personally thought it was kind of not kicked out of the format, but a few bannings made it much worse compared to back in the days.
Yeah, like we mentioned in the video as well, Wasteland, Field, Ancient Tomb, cards like that being gone absolutely took a lot of the punch out of the deck. And when you play and look at lists like this, there's a lot of situations where this deck has probably one of the highest tendencies or the highest abilities to nut draw, to have these incredibly powerful hands where you play Azusa and have a Crucible or a Ramen Up Ruins, and you start dust bowling the opponent out of the game starting from turn 3 or 4, and they don't have any lands left. Things like that can happen, but I think the average is casting bad 3-drops in this deck, which, well, maybe not the average, but I think there's a significant amount of situations where you are simply having to cast spells that are quite a bit worse than what other decks want to be casting at 3, and if they get countered or removed quickly, you have no synergy, and you're just literally playing lands one after the other to try to eventually start casting Woodland Beller or Primeval Titan, and if that gets countered too, then yeah, there's not much you're going to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, what really makes this deck interesting is on one side the land toolbox it can cover, on the other side, due to the multiple land drops, playing big creatures or big planeswalkers relatively early in the game compared to your other decks. If you take away the, like, I don't want to spoil our matchup, but if Azusa gets handled by counterspells or something, if you keep it locked in the command zone with Dranith, Majestat, and stuff like this, it's quite hard for that deck to play relevant magic, I would say so.
Yes, absolutely.
Which makes it a bit hard every now and then. But I wonder what was the consideration for this player to play this deck, because I would imagine the matchup against Shorikai isn't that easy. On the other hand, I can imagine that Grist is not the best deck to handle mana advantage, which results in casting the big creatures every now and then, as we just said. So this might have been a good matchup for him, and that might have
carried him into top 16.
Yeah, exactly.
That's absolutely possible. Yeah, I think looking at the Lonis list, I hadn't looked at it. Just scrolling through it, it definitely seems interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of those commanders that's a little bit similar to Kinan or Yisan, where you have this huge pool of possible cards that you could be playing in that list, and putting together the list that gets you to that gets you the best results is very difficult. So this deck occupies several different avenues. It's playing Wash Away and Mental Misstep, as well as Brainstorm, without any other cantrips. It plays lots of utility creatures, lots of combo creatures. So
yeah, and,
I think
a
this
bunch
is one
of
of those quite difficult to pilot decks, but if you have practice with it, I think it probably can put up great results.
Definitely. It plays a lot of 3-card combos, just to name a few, like we have Earthcraft, Alluran, and Shrieking Drake. And I mean, Alluran and Shrieking Drake on its own can produce like a zillion clues, and if you have infinite mana, you can draw your whole deck. Just have to see if he has a finisher for infinite mana.
With Academy Manufactor, you are then making infinite mana.
Yeah, or right, yeah.
Infinite mana with Finale,
which you can find with Spellseeker and
Win.
all that. You would have to look
And
into the list a bit more to figure out all the combo lines, but it looks definitely interesting, I have to say, and I'm quite impressed by the result. Because, yeah, playing 9 rounds in a row and finishing with top 16 is a nice achievement, I would say. And that's probably like the advantage of playing this list is, especially pretty much what you said in the beginning, that people don't really know what to expect from it, because the pool of what you could include in it is so big. And it could also just be some Simic value pile, more like casually oriented, because someone just likes to play Lonis because he likes the card design or whatever. Or it could be in an elf ball direction, and you would have to expect a creative behemoth on turn 5 or something like this with a few creatures on board. So it's quite hard to say, and that can give you a lot of advantages, especially in the first games when you enter new matchups and stuff.
an avenue that I really like, I'm not sure how good it is, but I really like it, is playing Exploration as well as Sakura Tribe Scout and Sky Shroud Ranger with the 2 bounce lands. Because it's probably doesn't happen that often where those cards kind of come together, but that's definitely an issue of decks like this, where sometimes you dump your hand and maybe your one threat gets countered or destroyed, the card that would have been drawing you cards or generating card advantage for you, and then you just have a lot of mana and nothing to do with it. And these kind of lines allow you to keep greedier hands with less lands and be rewarded for it in the long term, because you have more spells in hand and can do more.
What I also like is the fact that Quirion Ranger and Scrib Ranger would do so as well, but he doesn't play it, which is totally reasonable. In combination with Yavi Maya, allows you to bounce either the channel lands or Urza Saga also, to lock the Saga, or like making tokens, and before it gets sacrificed you can bounce it, play it again, and then in some grindy situations it can lead to a game win, since the tokens in this deck should be quite strong due to the clue tokens you produce with Lonis. But primarily I like the interaction with the channel lands becoming a forest, and you have the option to bring them back in hand later on and still make use of them. And not skipping your early land drop.
Yeah, I like this list too. So something that I'm not sure if we've mentioned so far, but that is a consideration, is that in the top 16 there is 5 Shorikai lists with a total of 24 participating. So that's like a fourth of them, nearly a fourth or a fifth, made it into the top 16. And for the Grist, none top 8 and only 2 in the top 16 of 30 participants. So that's a much smaller percentage of Grist lists making it all the way.
Yeah,
which
that's
is surprising. I'm not sure why it is. Would be interesting to get some perspective on players that did choose Grist, and as to why they picked this list, or what happened for it to not perform as well as you would have expected, having 30 players going into a 255-man tournament.
Well, I'm not sure about the matchup against Shorikai. I would imagine it's not the easiest one. And also, I personally think Grist is a great commander. We've had it on the channel a couple of times already. And the list that's currently played is also very well worked out with a few cool synergy lines, and Hoga gives you a lot of region flexibility, especially against mid-range and control-ish archetypes, or recursion actually. But probably it's that the list might be a bit too hype, and like the players who've been with the list for some time and who achieved some results on tournaments, they know the good and the bad matchups. So these players might have changed their decision, took another deck, or maybe didn't participate, or whatever. But other players who discovered Grist due to the recent results, they just jumped right into it and like let's say they had like 4 or 3 weeks of preparation, and then you have like at some point you have to log into a list in order to get some games going, especially if you play now 9 rounds on day 1. So that might have been the case, that there's just some timely delay between the people who have brought Grist to the market, let's say it like that, and those who've catch up the idea, and now they've realized, okay, maybe it's actually not that good, at least in this field. That's just one theory. There could be many.
I think that's probably pretty close to, or some aspects of that are pretty close to the truth. Yeah, and another list that I mean, we've been talking about it the whole time, Shorikai. Comparing these lists that made it to the top 16 or the top 8, they're all very similar. Most of them are even playing those slots that maybe like half a year ago would have been considered very fringe in basically all Duel Commander lists. Cards like Condemn or Blessed Alliance or Revitalize. You'd usually expect someone who's just picked up the format and needed a 99th card to have put a Revitalize in their list, and that's played in all of the Shorikai lists, which I consider quite surprising. There's also a surprising omission of Mental Misstep on a lot of the Shorikai lists, which is also something that I would never consider, even with my build that barely plays counter spells, that only plays the really cheap and efficient ones. I still play Mental Misstep because I think it's just so important to counter a mana dork on turn 2, or in general interact with the 1 mana spells over the course of the game. So yeah, the Shorikai list that's winning these tournaments is a bit of an anomaly for me, because I'm looking at these lists and I think I wouldn't play them like this, and I'm surprised that they're putting up the results that they are, but they obviously are, and they obviously continue to do so. So yeah,
seems to work. It's a matter of different play styles and what you prefer. I always stumble upon a few spells that I definitely would not include, and sometimes I miss other ones. Like, as people tend to say that Shorikai has trouble against red deck wins or very aggressive strategies, that's why they include Revitalize, which is fine to me. I understand that. They also play Timely Reinforcements, but I never see a Sunset Revelry, which I think is deserves its spots as well. Like, might not be bad. I mean, Blessed Alliance is a card that I haven't seen for ages, so it seems strange to me, one or another decision. But as you said, these decks continue to score great results. I still think that Shorikai isn't completely discovered. This commander offers so much more to just play a mono bluish strategy. This might still be the best way or the most efficient way to play Shorikai, but yeah, would be cool to see if people experiment with different things. But on the other hand, Wizards is kind of making it hard for us because they always keep printing new interesting commanders. I personally, I don't want to say I fell in love, but I find Oscar, this new Dimir commander, quite interesting. You can go into different directions as well. And yeah, soon there will be Commander Legends volume.
You're very biased though. You jump on any chance that there is to play Dimir in Duel Commander. Basically always been banned. You're always looking for a deck that you can play in that color combination.
Yeah, probably I'm biased. Like, in the very beginning, my first Duel Commander deck was Witwin, the 4-mana flash elf, not elf, fairy, for 4, which was quite different magic compared to today. I like the colors, to be honest, but I always end up realizing that it's yet not enough. It's not like Dimir got some upgrades in terms of card quality, but compared to Azorius, it's way worse, and that's what makes it complicated to run efficient Dimir piles. Like the last one I've picked up was Tevesh and Malcolm, which had its flaws as well, and there will be same trouble with Oscar. Might even be worse. I haven't played the deck that much yet. I just like it. I like the color combination. At one point it will be better. I'm very sure about that. Being optimistic about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like there will be next week actually this week, we're recording this on Monday. There will be a tournament on Saturday in Prague as well. So it will be interesting which decks they choose to play. Last time we went there, there were a lot of Sithis, and the Goblin King is always represented. And apart from that, I think we will also see a few Grists, a few Shorikais, and pretty much similar things to what we saw here in France.
Urza was the 6th most represented in the Relic TCG Fest as well. So
oh right, 7 Grinzo.
It's always ever present.
Yeah, I think it's a deck that's getting better and better, and I've been stumped by 2 times turn 4 Imperial Recruited combo last time with Chip, and I was quite frustrating because I couldn't really do something against it. You have some outs, some cool outs, even like when he plays the how's the goblin called, the Snoop, and with Codex Shredder you could do some shenanigans, laying the top card of his library down into the graveyard, so denying his or her combo.
Needling Snoop is probably pretty.
Needling Snoop
as well.
is good as well, yes, but like the common pile I know is that you play the Skirk Prospector, or you play the cards from top until you reach a point at which you put down Fashalik, and then you start playing. You have like 1 or 2 red mana left, and then you start playing 1-drops from top, and you sacrifice them into Skirk, and then you just play them and ping your opponent for like 16-17, and in between you build not a Frenzied Goblin, how's it called, a Foundry Street Denizen, and this one grows, and in the end you have the one that grants all the creatures trample and first strike, I guess.
Legion Loyalist,
exactly. So yeah, and if that's not enough, you end up with sacrificing a few more goblins into the Siege Gang Lieutenant, which drains again. So,
and you also have against some mainboard hate against a lot of different strategies. Like you have Trash Master that can kill half of your deck pretty cheaply, and Shorikai as well, and
yeah, exactly. That's another thing to worry about, at least as an affinity player. That's right. Yeah. So that's pretty much it we wanted to talk about today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And there's a short information I can give you already. We will have an interview with a committee member. Therefore, we will, within the next weeks, we will ask you for questions towards the committee about the format or whatever you want to know regarding Duel Commander, and we will keep you up to date regarding that. Until then, enjoy your games and stay safe.
Stay safe. Thanks for listening.